Take too long after Helmet Head coming out and saying that even if you're against independence, you should still support the SNP in the upcoming elections, for her to then use the so-called surge in support that they managed to obtain as a means to start talking about how they now have a strong case for independence. Yet again, Helmet Head in her desperate attempts to remain in the EU no matter the costs. So it's no surprise that accusations have started being thrown about that they're fraudulent in terms of how they're behaving currently. I'm inclined to agree. He's saying that in order to put a future yes vote beyond doubt or challenge, she would want the UK government to give Holyrood the power to hold a referendum through a Section 30 order or similar mechanism. The government has insisted it would not support such a vote at the present time, arguing that the matter was supposed to be settled for a generation by the independence referendum in 2014. Conservative Chief Whip Maurice Golden criticised the First Minister's comments on independence, accusing her of hypocritical deceit. The SNP went into this election pretending to voters that it was nothing to do with independence, yet within hours of it being announced, Helmet heading it to argue for separation. That's fraudulent behaviour from the SNP government that's meant to be running the country, not trying to break it up. The mandate that they speak of will cease to exist in 2021, hence why there's a bit of panic starting to set in regarding independence for Scotland. And of course, let's not forget here that the independence mandate that they currently have can't be acted upon unless Scotland was to be dragged out of the European Union against our will. So if an event like that doesn't come to the forefront, then they no longer have a mandate, like they currently don't. So it's very interesting to note, and rather questionable, as to why they seem to have built a campaign in the back of trying to stop Brexit entirely, thwart it, or at the very least have a people's vote, with Remain being the option over a no-deal Brexit. Why would they actively campaign for things that would, in effect, eradicate their mandate if it was successful? Reiterate, why are they currently, like they have been doing for the best part of 2 to 3 years, campaigning vigorously for things that would, in effect, eradicate their mandate? It's almost as if independence is an afterthought. It's almost as if independence is a plan B, just in the off chance they can't stop Brexit. Got treated with contempt by Westminster, Helmet Head has said, while in Ireland. Now, of course, Scotland hasn't been treated with contempt by Westminster. Nothing has changed in terms of the relationship between Scotland and England. Nothing has changed on the political stage regarding Brexit, but yet Sturgeon likes to proclaim otherwise. And of course, this is done as a means to constantly fuel the fire for the independence group and that voter base, just on the off chance they ever have to fall back independence referendum if Brexit isn't stopped. Helmet Head criticised the government for treating Scotland with utter contempt. We voted over 60% to remain. We have tried very hard in the wake of the UK-wide Brexit vote to find compromises and protect our interests. And of course, if you come to this article in question, it goes on to say down here that there are many reasons for that. My hope, although this is no way guaranteed, is that in a second referendum the UK as a whole would opt to remain. There are many reasons for that. One of them is that any form of Brexit, no matter how soft, will have damaging consequences for people's jobs, living standards and opportunities. And those consequences can be partially mitigated, but they can't be prevented, and no one should pretend that they can. This was a few months ago, April the 17th. So here we have Helmet Head admitting firsthand that any form of Brexit, regardless of how soft it may very well be, will be damaging and have consequences for the Scottish economy, Scottish jobs and so on and so forth. But yet, that's just brushed under the rug while she continues adding BS to the narrative that she's perpetuated here, going on to say that every compromise that the SNP have put forth to the government has been cast aside, rejected or ignored completely. But the compromise in question, it's not plural for one, but second of all, the compromise in question, she's openly stated herself, would have had consequences and would have been damaging. So it's not as if the compromise that she put forth would have been beneficial. Scotland has been treated with contempt, and people are contrasting that with Ireland, and that has been shown real solidarity and support from the European Union. The only person that is contrasting that with Ireland is Sturgeon, because she's the only one that keeps referring to the so-called solidarity that the European Union has been showing Ireland. Funny that I don't see any solidarity from the European Union being directed our way, but hey-ho. Suddenly this idea of being a small independent country in the EU, we only have to look at Ireland to see the benefits of that, and many people are having their eyes opened. Their eyes open to what exactly? Because this is the worrying thing. Are they having their eyes open to the narrative that you've created for them to swallow up? Or are they having their eyes open to what's really going on here? Why do you continuously compare our country to that of similar sized countries within the European Union, knowing full well that the majority of the countries that you're speaking about that are the similar in size to our own are what would be considered receivers within the European Union, countries that benefit by getting pumped money into their economy. Meanwhile, in the 2014 white paper, it clearly stated that we would have been a net contributor. So the lavish lifestyle that many countries within the European Union of similar size to our own, that wouldn't be one that we would see. Oh no. But of course, again, even that doesn't get a mention in Helmet Head's Utopia.